The flies come in before you even open the door all the way. 1 second the screen is shut, the next there are 3 of them circling the kitchen, landing on the counter, landing on the fruit. You wave them off, but the flies simply refuse to leave. They come back almost as soon as you stop waving. You close the window to keep them out, but it is already too late. It is 85 degrees and the mosquitoes are waiting outside like they have nothing else to do. By evening you have burned through half a can of spray. The kitchen smells like a chemical plant, and 2 mosquitoes are still in the bedroom. American families spend somewhere between $60 and $200 a year on sprays, plug-in zappers, citronella candles, and sticky strips. And some families spend even more than that every single year. And every summer, the same problem comes back. Same flies, and the same mosquitoes coming back. And just like that, same money gone. Here is the part that should make you a little uneasy. The insects are not coming back because the products failed. They are coming back because nothing you bought ever touched the reason the insects are there in the first place. You treated the flies that were already in the kitchen. Nobody ever showed you how to make the kitchen a place flies do not want to come near. Those are 2 completely different problems. One of them costs $60 a summer. The other one costs almost nothing, and my grandfather solved it before I was born. Stay with me. I spent 40 years keeping a working household in a mountain village in Japan, a Satoyama Village, which is the old Japanese word for the settlements that sat at the edge of the mountains where the forest met the farmed land. Humid summers, wooden walls, a garden, a storehouse, a workshop where food was dried and tools were kept. The kind of place where flies and mosquitoes and crawling insects are not an occasional nuisance. They are a serious problem if you let them get started. My name is Hiroshi Tanaka, and I learned to manage insects the way my father managed them, the way his father managed them before him, not by killing the ones already in the house, but by making the house and the land around it a poor place for insects to breed, to feed, and to land. 3 methods. No chemicals, no purchase traps. The cost, if any, is $2 to $4, and most of it is already in your kitchen or your garden. Before I walk you through all 3, I want to mention something. Flies and mosquitoes are 2 pests, but a wooden home has more than 2. Mice, ants, cockroaches, moths in the grain. Every one of them found its way into a Satoyama house at some point, and every one of them had an old answer. I put the full household system, all 11 common pests and the same low-cost methods adapted for a modern American home, into a written guide called Washitsu. The link is in the description below. This kind of plain, practical knowledge is exactly what I built this channel to share, and the only way it keeps reaching people is when someone who finds it useful presses that subscribe button. If what I just said sounds useful to you, do that now. There is more of this coming. Now, one question before I go on. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and how bad are the flies and mosquitoes at your place this summer? Is it the yard that is the problem, the kitchen, the porch at night? I read every single comment that comes in. Now, let me tell you why nothing most people try actually works, because if you do not understand this, the 3 methods will not make sense. A fly does not wander into your kitchen randomly. A mosquito does not pick your yard at random. Both of them are following signals: smell, moisture, heat, standing water. And those signals are being produced by your home and your yard right now, whether you know it or not. A bowl of fruit on the counter produces fermentation gases that flies can detect from a considerable distance. A bottle cap with a 1/4 inch of rainwater in it is sufficient for a mosquito to lay eggs, not a puddle, not a pond, a bottle cap. The sprays and the zappers address the insects that have already responded to those signals. They do nothing about the signals themselves, so the next wave of insects follows the same signals in, and you spray again, and the cycle continues, and the company that makes the spray sells another can. The Satoyama approach works differently. It works on 3 things at once. It creates a counter signal that draws flies away from the house and neutralizes them. It places aromatic plants at the entry points that confuse and repel flying insects before they ever come inside, and it eliminates the standing moisture that allows mosquitoes to breed within 10 feet of your walls. When all three are running together, you are not fighting insects, you are making your home invisible to them. That is the principle, not clever, not complicated. Forced on us by necessity, because in a wooden mountain home with no screens and no hardware store within 20 miles, you could not afford to let the problem start. The first method is the one that surprises people the most, because it uses something that smells like it should attract flies. And it does. That is the entire point. Pour about 2 inches of rice vinegar into a clean glass jar. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar. Add 2 drops of dish soap, not more than 2. Stir it gently, set the jar near the place where flies come in, and leave it alone. That is the first method, and it costs roughly $2 if you do not already have rice vinegar in the cabinet. If you do, it costs nothing. Now let me explain why it works, because the logic matters. Rice vinegar, as it sits in a warm jar, produces the same fermentation gases that a rotting piece of fruit produces. Acetic acid, carbon dioxide, faint traces of ethanol. Flies detect these compounds from a distance that would surprise you, across a yard, through a window screen, from a neighbor's property. The vinegar jar smells, to a fly, exactly like a meal. Better than the fruit on your counter, actually, because the concentration is higher. The sugar adds a sweetness signal on top. The fly comes in close, lands on the surface of the liquid, and the dish soap has broken the surface tension so the fly cannot push off and lift away. It goes under. That is the end of it. The jar does not need to be large. A half-pint mason jar works well. A clean pasta sauce jar works just as well. You are not trying to fill it. 2 inches of liquid is enough. Place it on the counter near the window where flies enter, or on the porch railing if that is where they gather, or near the trash can if that is the source. You want it within 4 or 5 feet of where you actually see them landing. 1 jar handles a kitchen. 2 jars handle a kitchen and a back porch. For a garage or a shed where flies congregate in numbers, place the jar near the door and change it every 4 to 5 days by pouring it out, rinsing, and mixing a fresh batch. The smell weakens as it ages, and a weak signal does not pull insects the way a fresh one does. A few things worth saying plainly. This method draws flies toward the jar. That means for the first hour or 2 after you place a fresh jar, you may notice more fly activity near that spot. Do not take it out. That is the method working. You are concentrating them in one place instead of letting them spread across the kitchen. Within half a day, the numbers around the jar will start dropping. Rice vinegar is what my father's household used because it was always present. A wooden home in a Satoyama Village kept vinegar the way an American home keeps salt. If you cannot find rice vinegar at your grocery store, plain white vinegar works. Apple cider vinegar works slightly better than white vinegar because the fruit notes in it add an extra attractant layer. Rice vinegar remains the most effective of the 3, and most grocery stores carry it in the Asian food section for about $2 a bottle. 1 bottle lasts the whole summer. That handles the flies that are already trying to come in. The second method addresses something different. The flying insects, mosquitoes, and the smaller gnats and midges that hover near doorways and windows in the evening, looking for a warm body to land on. For those, the village used a barrier. Not a physical one, an aromatic one. 3 plants, Shiso, Wormwood, and Marigold. Shiso, some of you will know it as perilla, is a leafy herb that grows easily in a pot or a garden bed. It is common in Asian grocery stores and increasingly in garden centers. The leaves produce a sharp camphor-like oil when bruised, or even when the wind moves through them. Mosquitoes and gnats navigate partly by smell, using carbon dioxide and body heat to find a target, and the volatile oils from Shiso interfere with that navigation, not by killing, by confusing. An insect that cannot locate the signal it is following simply moves on. Wormwood, the plant known in Japanese mountain gardens as yomogi, grows as a low silvery green shrub and is even more aggressive as a repellent. The artemisia oils in its leaves are what give it the bitter smell, and those oils are among the most effective natural insect deterrents known. You can find wormwood at a garden center or online as a starter plant for around $3 to $5. Once it is established in your yard, it spreads on its own and costs nothing year after year. Plant it within 2 feet of a door or window you want protected, or grow it in a pot and set the pot right at the threshold. Marigold is the easiest of the three to find anywhere in the country, and the one most people already have in the yard without knowing what it is doing. The root system of a marigold produces a compound called alpha-terphenyl that disrupts the larvae of mosquitoes in the soil nearby. The flowers and leaves produce pyrethrum, a natural oil that flying insects avoid. A pot of marigolds on each side of your front door and another on the back step creates an aromatic gate that flying insects find deeply unpleasant to pass through. A 6-pack of marigold seedlings at a garden center costs $3. These 3 plants work together in layers. Marigold handles the soil and the air immediately around the entry point. Shiso handles the mid-range, the insects coming in from the yard. Wormwood pushes back against anything that got through the first 2. You do not need all 3 to see a difference. 1 plant at the doorway is better than nothing. All 3 together is the full barrier. There is an old habit from the Satoyama villages worth borrowing here. On summer evenings, when the mosquitoes are worst, the old people in my village would snap a few leaves of shiso and rub them between their palms, then run their hands over their arms and the back of their neck. Not as a ritual, as a practical thing. The oil transfers to the skin, and for an hour or so it works as a personal deterrent. It costs nothing if you have the plant already, it smells pleasant, and it leaves no chemical residue. Try it on a warm evening before you go outside. A bait that draws flies away from the house. An aromatic barrier that turns back mosquitoes and gnats at the door. Those 2 methods already change the character of a summer evening considerably. But there is a 3rd leg to this, and without it, the other 2 are working against a system that keeps rebuilding itself. They are breeding next to it. Walk around the outside of your house. Not a long walk, just a quick check around the perimeter. Stay within 10 feet of the walls and look down. What you are looking for is water. Not a pond. You're looking for much smaller sources. Not a puddle you can see from across the yard. Small water. A plastic lid sitting in the grass with a film of last week's rain in it. A flower pot tray that holds half an inch after a storm. A section of gutter that sags in the middle and does not drain. A wheelbarrow left upright and open to the sky. A fold in a top. The groove along the bottom of a fence post. A mosquito needs still water to lay eggs. Not much of it, and not clean water. Stagnant is better for them. The eggs hatch in roughly 48 hours in warm weather. The larvae become adults in about a week. What that means in practical terms is this. A single bottle cap of standing water within 10 feet of your back door can produce dozens of new mosquitoes in 7 days, and those mosquitoes do not travel far. They stay near where they were born, near your walls, near your windows, near you. Pick up every container that holds water and cannot be moved indoors. Flip it over, don't leave any chance for water to collect. Empty the tray under every flower pot. Clean the gutters if they are holding water. A sagging gutter is a mosquito nursery running from one end of your roofline to the other. If you have a rain barrel or a water feature you want to keep, cover it with a fine mesh screen or add a small submersible pump to keep the surface moving. Mosquitoes cannot lay eggs in moving water. They need it still. Moving water is their enemy. This is not complicated work. It takes 20 minutes the first time, and 5 minutes once a week after that to check that nothing has collected water again. In my village, we called this the before rain habit. You checked the yard the way you checked the firewood, not because something had gone wrong, but because you checked it. It was the kind of discipline that costs almost nothing and saves a great deal. Now, once the standing water is gone, the third part of the method is placing two materials at the entry points and the damp zones around the house: cedar chips and a piece of Binchotan charcoal. Cedar, sugi in Japanese, though American red cedar works equally well and is available at any garden center or hardware store in a bag of chips or shavings for about $4 to $6, produces a volatile oil called cedrol. Flies, mosquitoes, moths, and most crawling insects find cedrol deeply repellent. Not harmful to them. Repellent. They will not cross a threshold where the smell is fresh. Place a small cloth bag of cedar chips, or simply a loose handful in a breathable container. The smell is clean and not unpleasant to a human nose. In fact, it is the same smell as a cedar chest. Refresh the cedar every 3 to 4 weeks by squeezing the bag or stirring the chips with your fingers to release the oil again. When the chips stop smelling entirely, replace them. One bag lasts a season. Binchotan is the white charcoal that Japanese craftsmen have used for centuries. You can find it at Asian grocery stores, kitchen supply stores, and online, usually sold in rods or chunks for around $8 to $12 a bag. Place a rod or a chunk near your door threshold, near any damp corner in a basement or crawl space, or anywhere you have noticed a persistent smell of moisture. It is harder than regular charcoal, burns almost without smoke, and has a porous structure. The charcoal pulls the dampness out of the air in a small radius around itself. Insects, flies, gnats, and especially fungus gnats and drain flies are drawn to moisture and fermentation smells. Remove the moisture, and you remove one of the primary signals that brings them close to the walls. If you cannot find Binchotan, regular activated charcoal in a mesh bag works. The Binchotan is worth finding if you can, because a rod properly dried in the sun once a month recharges itself and lasts for years. It is the kind of material that pays for itself many times over. Now, I will be plain about this, because I said at the start that honest is better than impressive, and I meant it. This system, the vinegar bait, the aromatic plants, the cedar and charcoal at the thresholds, the standing water elimination, will dramatically reduce the flies and mosquitoes around your home. Dramatically. But it will not clear a swamp. The system still helps. It still makes your home less attractive than the alternatives. But I want you to go in with honest expectations. For the vast majority of American yards and homes, removing standing water within 10 feet of the walls and running all three methods together will change the character of summer evenings in a way that surprises people. My grandfather understood something about the relationship between a house and the ground it sat on that most modern home building has forgotten. He used to say that a dry house is an old house, meaning that the houses which lasted centuries in the Satoyama were the ones whose owners treated dampness as an enemy from the first warm day of spring. Every crack that let moisture in, every depression in the ground that held water after rain, every corner of the Ingawa veranda where leaves collected and stayed wet. He addressed all of it before the insects arrived, not after. Not because he was especially disciplined, because in a wooden house you could not afford not to be. He kept a piece of charcoal near the threshold of the doma, the earthen floor entryway of the old house. From the first day of May until the last day of September, he kept cedar in every storage cabinet. He let the shiso in the kitchen garden grow tall and close to the window on purpose. Not one of those things cost him money. All of them together meant that a house full of people and food and warmth in the middle of a humid mountain summer was not overrun the way the houses that did nothing were overrun. There is no money in cedar chips and rice vinegar. There is no subscription to sell you, and there is no service to renew, no canister to replace every 30 days. The pest control industry, and it is a large industry, measured in the billions of dollars each year in this country, has a straightforward interest in making sure you believe that the problem requires their product to solve. The problem does not require that. It requires 20 minutes of walking your yard, $2 of vinegar, a few plants at the door, and a handful of cedar. The old people in the Satoyama knew this. The knowledge did not disappear. It just stopped being taught because there was no profit in teaching it. That changes today if you let it. So here is what I want you to do before the week is out. First, walk the perimeter of your house. Stay within 10 feet of the walls. Every container holding water, flip it over. Every flower pot tray, empty it. Check the gutters if you can do it safely, and look for any sag in the line where water might be sitting. This whole process takes about 20 minutes. Do it once now, then 5 minutes every week after that. That single habit breaks the breeding cycle that no spray has ever touched. Second, go to the grocery store. Pick up a bottle of rice vinegar, $2 in the Asian foods aisle, sometimes less. You already have sugar and dish soap at home. Mix 2 inches of vinegar in a clean jar, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 drops of dish soap. Place it near the window or door where flies come in most. Place a second jar near the trash area or the back porch if that is where they gather. Change the mixture every 4 to 5 days. That is your fly method, running continuously all summer for the cost of 1 bottle of vinegar. Third, go to a garden center. Look for Marigold seedlings, $3 for a 6-pack in most places. Buy 2 pots if you do not already have them, and plant 1 pot for each side of your front door and 1 for the back step. If the garden center carries Shiso or perilla, pick up 1 plant. If they carry Wormwood or any Artemisia variety, pick up 1 of those as well. Set them within 2 feet of the doorways you use most. If you can only find marigolds, start there. The barrier begins with whatever you plant first and improves as you add to it. Fourth, pick up a small bag of cedar chips from the hardware store, $4 to $6, usually found near the garden or pest control section. Fill a few small cloth bags, or place a loose handful in a breathable container and set 1 on each side of your main entry, 1 on each window ledge where insects come in, and 1 near any damp corner in a basement or garage. If you can find Binchotan charcoal, check an Asian grocery store or order it online, roughly $8 to $12 for a bag that lasts years. Place a rod near the door threshold and 1 near any persistently damp spot inside. If you cannot find Binchotan yet, start with the cedar and come back to the charcoal later. Run all 4 steps together and you have the complete system. The vinegar bait pulls flies away from the house and neutralizes them. The aromatic plants at the door turn back mosquitoes and gnats before they enter. The cedar and charcoal at the thresholds remove the moisture and smell signals that draw insects close to the walls. And the standing water sweep cuts off the local breeding population at the source. None of these fight the insects that are already inside. All of them work on the reason insects keep coming back. And that right there is the key difference. Now, I want to be clear about the order of importance if you have limited time or money this weekend. I recommend standing water first. Always make sure to check for water. That 1 step alone, 20 minutes, no cost, will reduce the mosquito population around your home faster than anything else on this list. The vinegar jar second, because it is $2 and takes 3 minutes to mix. The plants third, because they keep working season after season once they are in the ground. The cedar and charcoal fourth, as the finishing layer that tightens everything up. A viewer left a comment on one of my earlier videos asking whether these methods need to be repeated every year or whether they build up over time. The standing water habit and the vinegar jar need to run every summer. They are active practices, not one-time fixes. The standing water habit and the vinegar jar need to run every summer. They are active practices, not one-time fixes. The plants, once established, come back on their own or spread. The cedar needs refreshing every few weeks through the warm months. The Binchotan, dried in the sun once a month, lasts for years without replacing. The system gets easier to maintain the longer you run it because the conditions that favor insects around your home keep getting worse for them and better for you. If this has been useful to you, press that subscribe button now. I share this kind of knowledge every week. Practical, low-cost methods from the Satoyama world that translate directly into a modern American home. There are no products to sell here, and there are no subscriptions either. Just what works, plainly explained. And leave me a comment before you go. Tell me, which of these 3 methods are you going to try first? the vinegar jar, the plants at the door, or the cedar at the threshold. And if you have already tried something like this on your own, tell me what you used and whether it worked. I read every comment that comes in, and the answers you leave shape what I make next. The natural next step from here is one I have been asked about more times than almost any other topic. What to do about the insects that are already inside the walls? The ants that find the kitchen no matter how clean it is, the cockroaches that appear in the basement after rain. The same village logic applies, and the methods are just as simple and just as cheap. That is what comes next. The insects that troubled my grandfather's house troubled every house in that mountain village. None of those households used a product from a store. They used the land around them, the plants that grew at the edge of the garden, and the materials they already had. Vinegar, charcoal, cedar, the discipline of checking the yard after rain. A clean threshold, a dry floor, a jar of vinegar on the sill. That was the whole system. It kept wooden homes standing and livable through summers far more humid than most of what you face. It will work for yours.